She was having a heart attack in the ER. And the cardiologist was her ex-fiancé who left her at the altar. Zara Mitchell's chest felt like someone had wrapped steel cables around it and was tightening them slowly, methodically, with the deliberate cruelty of a torturer who wanted you to know what was coming. She was 32 years old. She ran 5 miles 3 times a week. She didn't smoke. She barely drank. This couldn't be happening. "Ma'am." The parking garage attendant appeared beside her car. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Zara tried to answer, but the pain had spread to her jaw now, radiating down her left arm with the intensity of lightning striking flesh. The manila envelope on her passenger seat, the one containing evidence that would destroy Houston Medical Center's reputation, seemed to mock her as her vision started to tunnel. "Not now. Not when I'm this close. Call 911, she managed to gasp. I think I'm having a heart attack. Hello, my beautiful family. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Your support means everything to us. This story is about second chances, difficult choices, and what happens when the person who broke your heart is the only one who can save your life. Stay with us until the very end. And if this story touches you, share your thoughts in the comments. Now let's go back to where it all started, 6 hours before everything changed. 6 hours earlier, Zara had been sitting in a coffee shop in Montrose, waiting for the source who was about to hand her career-defining story. Table in the back. Come alone. If I see anyone who looks like hospital security, I'm gone. The text had come from a blocked number at 2 a.m. Zara had learned to trust her instincts about sources, and everything about this one screamed credible. She'd been investigating Houston Medical Center for 8 months. What had started as a routine check on surgical complication rates had evolved into something much darker. A pattern of unnecessary cardiac procedures performed on patients who didn't need them, all to inflate revenue and justify the hospital's expensive new cardiac wing. The coffee shop door opened. A woman in her 50s entered, eyes darting nervously. Scrubs visible under her jacket. ID badge turned backward to hide her name. She spotted Zara and approached with the careful movements of someone who'd spent years being invisible in hospital corridors. "Ms. Mitchell? That's me." Zara gestured to the seat across from her. "Thank you for reaching out." The woman, she'd said to call her Rachel, though that clearly wasn't her real name, pulled out a USB drive with shaking hands. "Everything's on here. Patient files with identifying information removed. Surgical reports. Billing records. Internal emails discussing revenue optimization strategies." Rachel's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "They're performing cardiac catheterizations on patients who don't need them. Stenting arteries that aren't blocked. Convincing people they're dying when they're not." Zara's pulse quickened. This was it. This was the proof she needed. How many patients? Over 3 years? At least 200. Maybe more. Rachel pushed the drive across the table. "But Ms. Mitchell, you need to understand, these people are dangerous." When Dr. Chen tried to raise concerns internally, she was fired. When a nurse reported irregularities, she was blacklisted from every hospital in Houston. "I can protect you." "No, you can't." Rachel's eyes were haunted. "They have lawyers, money, connections to every powerful person in this city, and they will destroy anyone who threatens their reputation." Zara thought of another source 5 years ago who tried to expose the same hospital. That investigation had been killed. Her engagement had been destroyed. Her career had nearly ended. But she was stronger now. Smarter. And she had evidence. "I won't let that happen again," Zara said firmly. Rachel stood to leave, then paused. "There's one more thing you should know. Dr. Hart, the chief of cardiology, he's part of this. He performs more unnecessary procedures than anyone else in the department." The name hit Zara like a physical blow. Dr. Lucas Hart. The man who'd left her at the altar 5 years ago because she'd threatened his precious career. "Are you sure?" Zara asked, her voice tight. "I've seen his surgical logs. He knows exactly what he's doing." Rachel's expression softened with something like pity. "I'm sorry. I know you two were. I remember the wedding announcement in the Chronicle Society pages." After Rachel left, Zara sat alone with the USB drive and a chest pain that she attributed to stress and old heartbreak. She had no idea it was the beginning of a cardiac event that would put her life in the hands of the man who'd betrayed her. St. Anne's Catholic Church, Houston, Texas. June 15th. Zara stood in the bride's dressing room, her wedding dress a vision of white lace and desperate hope, staring at her phone as the text message shattered her world. I can't do this. I'm sorry. Please don't try to find me. L. Around her, bridesmaids chattered excitedly, unaware that the groom had just disappeared. The church was full. 300 guests. Her parents had flown in from Atlanta. His family occupied the front rows. And Lucas Hart was gone. Zara, her best friend Keisha, appeared in the doorway. Honey, we need to start. It's already 15 minutes past. She stopped, seeing Zara's face. What's wrong? Zara showed her the text with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. What she didn't show anyone was the email that had arrived 30 minutes before Lucas's text. From Dr. Patricia Okoye, Houston Medical Center's administrator. Ms. Mitchell, I'm disappointed to learn of your continued investigation into our cardiac surgery program, despite our previous conversations. I hope you understand that publishing unsubstantiated allegations will have consequences, not just for our institution, but for everyone associated with it. I trust Dr. Hart has made you aware of the difficult position your journalistic pursuits have created for his career. Perhaps your wedding day is an appropriate time to reconsider your priorities. Warmest regards, Dr. Okoye. The message was clear. Drop the investigation or Lucas's career ends. Zara had called him immediately. Lucas, we need to talk. Don't do anything until we talk. But he'd already made his choice. Standing in that church, humiliated in front of everyone she knew, Zara had understood something fundamental. Lucas Hart valued his career more than he valued her. More than their love. More than the promises he'd made. And the investigation she'd been pursuing, the one that had cost her everything, was quietly killed by the Houston Chronicle 2 weeks later. Too much pressure from the hospital's lawyers. Too many powerful people protecting their interests. Zara had lost everything. Her fiancé. Her story. Her credibility. She'd spent the next 5 years rebuilding. Took a job at a smaller paper. Worked her way back up. Won a Pulitzer for exposing pharmaceutical fraud in nursing homes. And she'd never stopped thinking about Houston Medical Center. About the patients being harmed. About Lucas Hart, who'd chosen complicity over courage. Now she finally had the evidence to bring them all down. The pain started 20 minutes after Rachel left the coffee shop. Zara attributed it to stress. To the anxiety of finally having the evidence she needed. To the old wounds reopened by learning that Lucas was actively participating in the scheme she was exposing. She drove back to the Chronicle offices, the USB drive burning a hole in her messenger bag. Her editor needed to see this immediately. Legal needed to vet the documents. They needed to move fast before the hospital got wind of the story. But by the time she pulled into the newspaper's parking garage, the pain had intensified. Chest tight, jaw aching, left arm tingling with that specific wrongness that every woman who'd read health articles knew to watch for. No, not now. Not when I'm this close. She tried to stand, but her legs wouldn't hold her weight. Collapsed against her car, sliding down until she was sitting on the concrete, the manila envelope clutched to her chest like a shield. The parking attendant found her there. Called 911. Stayed with her as the pain reached crescendo, and she understood with terrifying clarity that this was real. She was 32 years old and having a heart attack. Ironic, she thought through the pain. Investigating cardiac malpractice, and my own heart betrays me. The ambulance arrived within 8 minutes. Paramedics asking questions she could barely answer. One of them, a young woman with kind eyes, took her hand. We're taking you to Houston Medical Center. It's the closest hospital with a cardiac cath lab. No. Zara tried to protest, but another wave of pain stole her breath. Not there. Anywhere but there. Ma'am, you're having a STEMI, a major heart attack. We need to get you to a cath lab immediately. Houston Medical is 3 minutes away. The next closest facility is 20 minutes. You might not have 20 minutes. As they loaded her into the ambulance, Zara clutched her phone with her right hand. The left arm was numb now, useless. She managed to send one text to Keisha. Heart attack. Houston Medical. Don't let them near my bag. Evidence inside. Then the world became a blur of sirens and pain, and the terrible irony that the hospital she'd been trying to expose was about to save her life. Or end it. Dr. Lucas Hart was reviewing surgical schedules in his office when his pager went off with the distinctive code that meant cardiac emergency incoming. STEMI alert. Female 32, ETA 2 minutes. He was already moving, pulling on his white coat over his scrubs, mentally preparing for the organized chaos of a heart attack intervention. 32 was young for a STEMI, raised immediate questions about congenital issues, drug use, or extreme stress. The ER was already in motion when he arrived. Nurses prepping the cath lab. Anesthesiology on standby. The efficient dance of emergency medicine that he'd participated in hundreds of times. "What do we know?" he asked the ER attending, Dr. James Chin. Female 32, found collapsed in a parking garage. Classic STEMI presentation. Chest pain radiating to jaw and left arm, ST elevation on EKG. Paramedics started treatment en route. She's conscious but in significant distress. The ambulance bay doors burst open, and Lucas's world stopped. Even before he saw her face, he knew. Something in the way the paramedic moved. The description, 32, parking garage, stress-related. But nothing could have prepared him for the moment the gurney came through those doors, and he looked down at Zara Mitchell. 5 years. 5 years since he'd destroyed both their lives. 5 years since he'd chosen his career over the woman he loved. 5 years of regret and justified self-loathing. And now she was dying in front of him. "Lucas." Dr. Chen's voice seemed to come from very far away. "You okay?" His voice didn't work. "I know her." Zara's eyes found his. Even through the pain and fear, he saw the moment of recognition. Saw the devastation. Saw her try to speak. "Not you," she gasped. "Anyone but you." "Ma'am, Dr. Hart is the best cardiac surgeon in Houston," the paramedic said, misunderstanding her distress. "You're in good hands." Zara's laugh turned into a cry of pain. "He doesn't have hands. He has knives." "Her BP is dropping," a nurse called out. "Heart rate's climbing. She's deteriorating." Lucas forced himself into professional mode. Personal history didn't matter. Not now. Not when someone's life was at stake. "Get her to cath lab 2, he ordered. "Page Dr. Rodriguez for anesthesia. I need her films up immediately." "No." Zara's voice was surprisingly strong despite her obvious agony. "Not him. Get someone else." Dr. Chin stepped forward. "Ma'am, I understand this is frightening, but Dr. Hart is our chief of cardiology. Right now you need." "He's a liar," Zara gasped. "A coward. And I don't trust him with my life." The words hit like bullets. Accurate. Deserved. Completely true. "Zara," Lucas said quietly, moving closer despite every instinct telling him to run. "I know you hate me. I know I don't deserve your trust. But right now, your left anterior descending artery is blocked. You're having a widowmaker heart attack. If we don't get you to the cath lab in the next 10 minutes, you're going to die." Her eyes met his, dark brown, familiar, filled with pain that had nothing to do with her heart attack and everything to do with him. "Maybe I'd rather die," she whispered, "than owe you my life." "Well, that's too bad," Lucas said, his voice harder than he'd intended. "Because I'm not letting you die. Not today. Not because of pride. Not because of what I did 5 years ago." He looked at Dr. Chin. "Get her to the cath lab. Now." As they wheeled her away, Zara's hand shot out and grabbed Lucas's coat with surprising strength. "My bag," she gasped. "Don't let anyone touch my bag. Promise me." Lucas saw the messenger bag clutched in her other hand. Saw the way she protected it even through the pain. "I promise. Swear it. On whatever you still care about. My bag stays with me. I swear. Your bag stays with you. Now let me save your life so you can tell me later what's in it that's worth dying over." The cardiac catheterization lab was a temple of technology and precision. Lucas scrubbed in with movements honed by thousands of procedures, but his hands were shaking. "Get it together. You've done this 1,000 times. She's just another patient." But she wasn't just another patient. She was Zara, the woman he'd loved, the woman he'd betrayed, the woman whose investigative journalism had threatened his career 5 years ago, the woman he'd left standing at the altar. Through the observation window, he could see her on the table, conscious but sedated. Her messenger bag had been placed on a chair in the corner, per his orders, though the staff had looked at him like he was insane. "Okay," he said, entering the sterile field. "Let's see what we're dealing with." The angiogram revealed what he'd suspected, a complete blockage of the left anterior descending artery. The widowmaker lesion. Without intervention, mortality rate was over 70% within the first hour. With intervention, if done properly, she had a good chance. "Prep for stenting," Lucas ordered. "We're going in through the radial artery." As he worked, threading the catheter through her arterial system, navigating toward the blockage with movements measured in millimeters, Lucas was acutely aware of the irony. Rachel, his source, though he didn't know her name, had been right to identify him as someone performing unnecessary cardiac procedures. Over the past 3 years, under pressure from Dr. Okoye and the hospital board, Lucas had stent arteries that didn't need stenting, had performed catheterizations on patients who could have been managed with medication. He'd told himself it wasn't really harming anyone, that the procedures were borderline cases, that he was protecting his career, his research funding, his ability to help the patients who really needed him. He'd been lying to himself. And now, performing a procedure that was absolutely, unquestionably necessary, saving the life of the woman he'd betrayed, felt like the universe's cruelest joke. Crossing the lesion, he narrated for the benefit of the surgical team. His voice was steady despite the way his heart was hammering. Advancing the wire, balloon positioned, inflating. The monitor showed the artery opening. Blood flow restored. Deploying stent. Zara's heart rate stabilized. Blood pressure improved. On the monitor, her EKG began showing healthier rhythms. She's responding well, Dr. Rodriguez said from anesthesia. Vitals improving. Lucas placed 3 stents, one in the LAD where the major blockage had occurred, 2 more in adjacent vessels that showed concerning narrowing. These were necessary. No question. No doubt. This was him practicing medicine the way it was meant to be practiced. Saving lives. Not padding revenue. Closing up, he announced. She's going to need at least 48 hours in cardiac ICU for monitoring, but the immediate crisis is resolved. As they transferred Zara to recovery, Lucas caught sight of her messenger bag. Whatever was in there had been important enough that she demanded its safety even while dying. His phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Patricia Okoye. I understand Ms. Mitchell was brought to our ER. Unfortunate situation. Please ensure all protocols are followed. And Lucas, patient belongings should be secured properly. Hospital policy. I'll send security to retrieve her personal effects for safekeeping. Lucas stared at the message, his blood running cold. Okoye knew. Somehow she knew that Zara had been investigating them. And she wanted that bag. He texted back. Patient specifically requested her belongings remain with her. Medical necessity for comfort and stability. Will maintain chain of custody personally. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then, we'll discuss this later. Lucas locked his phone and looked at Zara, still unconscious in recovery. Her bag sat on the chair beside her bed. 5 years ago, he'd chosen his career over protecting her. This time, he was going to choose differently, even if it cost him everything. Zara's first conscious thought was that dying had been a mistake. Her second thought was that the beeping was annoying. Her third thought, as her eyes focused on the figure sitting in the chair beside her hospital bed, was that hell was real and looked exactly like Lucas' heart reading through her investigative files. What? Her voice came out as a croak. What are you doing? Lucas's head snapped up. Relief flooded his face. An expression she didn't trust, couldn't afford to trust. You're awake. Thank God. He stood, moving closer. How do you feel? Like I had a heart attack and woke up to find my ex-fiancé rifling through my work. She tried to sit up, but pain and weakness made her collapse back against the pillows. Where's my bag? Right here. Untouched. Exactly as you requested. He gestured to the messenger bag on the chair. Though Dr. Okoye has been remarkably persistent about hospital security securing your personal belongings. The fog in Zara's brain began to clear. You didn't give it to her. No. Why not? Lucas was quiet for a moment. Because 5 years ago, when you were investigating this hospital, I chose my career over protecting you. I chose silence over courage. I let them destroy your story and our future because I was afraid. He met her eyes. I'm not making that choice again. Noble words from the man who left me at the altar. You're right. They're just words. But Zara, I need you to know something. Lucas pulled his chair closer, his voice dropping. You were right. 5 years ago, you were right about this hospital. About the unnecessary procedures. About the patients being harmed. Zara's heart rate monitor beeped faster. Are you admitting? I'm admitting that I'm part of it. I've been part of it for 3 years. His voice was raw with shame. Under pressure from Okoye and the board, I've performed procedures that were borderline at best, completely unnecessary at worst. I told myself it wasn't really harming anyone. That I was just being aggressive in my treatment protocols. That I was protecting my ability to do research, to help the patients who really needed me. You were lying to yourself. Yes. He looked at her directly. I was. And I need you to know, what I did to you today, the procedure that saved your life, that was completely necessary. No question. No doubt. That was legitimate medicine. How do I know that? Zara's voice was hard. How do I know you didn't use my heart attack as an opportunity to inflate your surgical numbers? The question hit him like a physical blow. Because I'm going to give you my complete surgical files. Every procedure I've performed for the past 3 years. Let your experts review them. Let them determine which were necessary and which weren't. Zara stared at him. Why would you do that? That's career suicide. Because people are being harmed. Because I've been complicit in that harm. And because you almost died, Zara. You had a heart attack at 32, because you've been working yourself to exhaustion trying to expose corruption that I've been actively participating in. My heart attack wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? Lucas's voice cracked. You've been investigating this for months. Living on stress and coffee and 3 hours of sleep. Your source told you I was performing unnecessary procedures. And that information probably felt like another betrayal. More stress. More hurt. And your body gave out. That's not how heart attacks work. I'm a cardiologist. I know exactly how stress-induced cardiac events work. He leaned forward. Your troponin levels suggest this has been building for weeks. You've been having chest pain, haven't you? Shortness of breath? But you ignored it because you were too focused on the investigation. Zara didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because he was right. Here's what's going to happen, Lucas said quietly. You're going to recover. You're going to take the evidence you have plus the files I'm giving you, and you're going to write the story that should have been published 5 years ago. You're going to expose this hospital's practices. And yes, that's going to destroy my career. Lucas, I deserve it. I've earned it. And more importantly, patients deserve the truth. He stood. But right now you need to rest. You had 3 stents placed. Your heart needs time to heal. Where's Keisha? Zara asked. I texted her. She's in the waiting room. Hospital policy, only family in ICU. He paused. I told them I was your fiancé. It was the only way they'd let me stay with your belongings. You lied. Ex-Fiancé is technically still fiancé in hospital bureaucracy. A ghost of his old humor. I'll get her. But Zara, Dr. Okoye knows you're here. She knows you were investigating us. She's going to come after you the moment you're vulnerable. Let her try. I'm serious. These people are dangerous. 5 years ago, they destroyed your story. They'll do worse now. Then I'll need someone on the inside. Someone willing to testify. She looked at him directly. Are you willing to be that person? The question hung between them. Yes, Lucas said finally. Whatever you need. Whatever it costs. I'm done being a coward. Dr. Patricia Okoye entered Zara's ICU room 6 hours later with the confidence of someone who owned every space she entered. She was 52, elegant in the way that money and power created. Her white coat was pristine. Her smile was practiced. Ms. Mitchell, I'm so relieved to see you recovering. Okoye's voice dripped with false concern. What a frightening experience. Dr. Okoye. Zara kept her voice neutral. Thank you for your concern. Of course. We take excellent care of all our patients here at Houston Medical. Okoye's eyes flickered to the messenger bag, still on the chair. I understand you were quite insistent about keeping your personal belongings close. Understandable, of course, but we do have secure storage. I'm fine, thank you. Dr. Hart mentioned you knew each other. From before. How fortuitous that he was on duty when you arrived. Okoye settled into the visitor's chair uninvited. Though I have to say, I'm surprised to see you here. Given your previous interest in our facility. There it was. The threat delivered with a smile. I didn't exactly choose to have a heart attack in your parking area, Zara said dryly. No, I suppose stress can do terrible things to the body. Okoye's smile widened. Particularly when one is pursuing stories that create unnecessary anxiety. Unnecessary to whom? Ms. Mitchell, I'm going to be direct with you. 5 years ago, you made some very serious allegations about this hospital. Allegations that were investigated and found to be baseless. They were killed by lawyers, not disproven by facts. And now I understand you've been making similar inquiries again. Talking to disgruntled former employees. Requesting records under questionable pretenses. Okoye leaned forward. I'm here to remind you that this hospital serves some of the most vulnerable populations in Houston. False accusations don't just harm our reputation. They harm our ability to provide care to people who desperately need it. And the patients who received unnecessary procedures? They don't factor into your concern. Careful, Ms. Mitchell. You're making accusations you can't prove while recovering from a cardiac event in the very hospital you're slandering. Some might see that as ungrateful. Or delusional. The threat was clear. Question our practices, and we'll question your mental state. The door opened. Lucas entered with Keisha behind him. Dr. Okoye, he said coldly. I don't recall approving visitors for Ms. Mitchell. I'm not a visitor, Dr. Hart. I'm the hospital administrator checking on a patient. Okoye stood. Though perhaps you should reconsider your involvement in this case. Given your personal history, some might question your objectivity. My objectivity is fine. What I'm questioning is yours. Okoye's expression hardened. Lucas, a word. In the hallway. Anything you need to say to me, you can say in front of Ms. Mitchell. I really don't think. Say it. Or leave. Okoye looked between them, clearly recalculating. Very well. I'm informing you that effective immediately, you're being removed from Ms. Mitchell's care team. Dr. Patterson will take over her case. On what grounds? Personal involvement that compromises professional judgment. Okoye's smile was sharp. And before you protest, I'm also placing you on administrative leave, pending a review of your recent surgical decisions. Several members of the board have expressed concern about your aggressive approach to interventional procedures. The room went silent. Lucas laughed, bitter, hollow. You're going to make me the scapegoat. I'm ensuring proper oversight of medical care. You're covering your ass by throwing me under the bus. Dr. Hart, I'd suggest you speak with the hospital attorneys before making any statements you'll regret. Okoye turned to leave, then paused. Ms. Mitchell, I do hope you recover quickly. And I hope you'll consider carefully before publishing anything that might be considered libelous. We have excellent legal counsel and unlimited resources to protect this institution's reputation. After she left, the three of them sat in stunned silence. She's going to destroy you, Zara said finally. Probably. Lucas sat down heavily. But at least this time, I'll deserve it for the right reasons. Keisha, who'd been silent until now, pulled out her phone. Well, if we're doing this, we're doing it right. Zara, I'm calling Marcus at legal. And Lucas, she looked at him appraisingly. I hope you have a good lawyer, because you're about to become a whistleblower. I don't need a lawyer. I need to do the right thing. The right thing gets you crucified if you don't have legal protection. Keisha was already dialing. So you're going to do the right thing and protect yourself. Because this story needs you alive and credible. Zara looked at Lucas, really looked at him for the first time since waking up. He was older. Tired. There were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 5 years ago. But there was something else too. A determination she recognized from the man she'd fallen in love with before ambition and fear had corrupted him. Why now? She asked quietly. Why finally choose to do the right thing after 5 years of choosing wrong? Lucas met her eyes. Because I watched you almost die today. And I realized that I've been dying too, slowly, piece by piece, every time I chose my career over my conscience. Every time I chose silence over truth. His voice broke. I can't live like that anymore. Even if it costs me everything. It will cost you everything. Then at least I'll finally deserve to look at myself in the mirror. 2 weeks after her heart attack, Zara sat in the Houston Chronicle's conference room surrounded by lawyers, editors, and enough evidence to destroy Houston Medical Center's reputation. Her chest still ached. The cardiac rehab sessions were exhausting. But she'd never felt more alive. Let's review what we have, Marcus Chin, the newspaper's lead attorney, said. He was methodical, cautious, exactly what they needed. Financial records showing billing irregularities. Patient files with identifying information removed but procedures documented. Internal emails discussing revenue optimization. And Dr. Hart's sworn testimony about his own participation in unnecessary procedures. Lucas sat across from Zara, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Since going on administrative leave, he'd spent every waking hour documenting his own cases, preparing testimony, meeting with lawyers. The hospital is going to argue that Dr. Hart is a disgruntled employee with an axe to grind, Marcus continued. They'll attack his credibility. His relationship with you, Ms. Mitchell, will be central to their defense. They'll claim this is personal vendetta disguised as journalism. Let them, Zara said. We have 20 other whistleblowers ready to testify. Nurses, techs, even 2 other physicians who witnessed the same practices. They're terrified, Keisha added. She'd been coordinating with the sources, building the network of testimony. But they're willing to speak if others do too. Safety in numbers. What about Dr. Okoye? The editor-in-chief, Janet Rodriguez, asked. How directly can we tie her to the scheme? Lucas pulled out a folder. These are emails from Okoye to department heads. Clear directives to increase procedural volume. Promises of bonuses tied to revenue generation. And this, he pulled out a specific document. This is a memo from 3 years ago outlining aggressive treatment protocols for cardiac patients. Aggressive treatment protocols isn't quite the same as perform unnecessary surgery, Marcus noted. Read between the lines, Lucas said. When the hospital administrator sends a memo saying department funding is tied to procedural volume and follows it with protocols that recommend intervention for borderline cases that could be managed medically, that's institutional pressure to overtreat. Zara watched him as he spoke. This was the Lucas she'd fallen in love with, passionate, intelligent, unwilling to compromise on what was right. The Lucas who'd been buried under 5 years of ambition and fear. When do we publish? Janet asked. Sunday edition, Zara said. Front page. Full investigative series. Part 1 focuses on the systematic overtreatment. Part 2 profiles affected patients. Part 3 examines the financial incentives. Part 4, she looked at Lucas, features Dr. Hart's testimony about internal pressure and his own complicity. They're going to come after you hard, Marcus warned Lucas. Professional reputation destroyed. Medical license at risk. Possible civil suits. Are you prepared for that? No, Lucas said honestly. But I'm doing it anyway. Houston Medical Center's response was swift and brutal. The story published Sunday morning. By Sunday afternoon, the hospital had released a statement calling the allegations categorically false and motivated by personal grievance. By Monday, they'd filed a defamation lawsuit against the Chronicle for $50 million. By Tuesday, they'd released Lucas's personnel file, carefully edited to make him look unstable. Documented concerns about judgment. A reprimand from 2 years ago for interpersonal conflict with staff. They painted him as a troubled physician with a vendetta. Wednesday brought the revelation that destroyed what was left of Lucas's professional reputation. Leaked photos of him and Zara together during her hospital stay. Him holding her hand. Sitting beside her bed. The implication was clear. Inappropriate relationship with a patient. They're making you look like a stalker who used your position to get close to me, Zara said, staring at the photos on her laptop. They were in her apartment. She'd been released from the hospital, but was still on strict activity restrictions. I was protecting your belongings, Lucas said tiredly. Making sure Okoye couldn't access your evidence. I know that. You know that. But to the public. She gestured at the screen where comment sections were filled with speculation about Lucas's motives. Half the internet thinks you're obsessed. The other half thinks we're running a con together. Keisha entered carrying coffee and looking grim. It gets worse. 3 patients are filing complaints with the medical board. All claiming Lucas performed unnecessary procedures on them. Did I? Lucas asked quietly. Keisha consulted her notes. 2 of them, yes, probably. Borderline cases that could have been managed differently. The third, she paused. The third is interesting. Jennifer Aldridge. You performed a life-saving emergency stent placement after she came in with an active heart attack. Completely necessary procedure. But she's claiming you coerced her into it unnecessarily. They got to her, Zara said immediately. Okoye got to her and convinced her to file a false complaint to muddy the waters. Probably. But it's effective. Now every case Lucas touches becomes suspect. Keisha sat down heavily. The hospital is playing this brilliantly. They're not defending their practices. They're destroying the credibility of everyone accusing them. Lucas's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and went pale. What? Zara asked. My father. Lucas's voice was flat. He's in the ER. Heart attack. Marcus Hart, 72 years old, lay in the same ICU where Zara had recovered 2 weeks earlier. Another heart attack. More severe than his first stroke 5 years ago. And the attending physician was Dr. Patterson, the cardiologist who'd replaced Lucas on Zara's case. A competent surgeon, but not as skilled as Lucas. Everyone knew it. He's asking for you, Lucas's mother said. Patricia Hart was elegant even in crisis, her composure barely cracked. He wants to apologize. Lucas stood outside his father's room, torn between duty and justified anger. You don't owe him anything, Zara said quietly. She'd insisted on coming with him despite her own health restrictions. Not after what he did to you. He's my father. He pressured you to abandon me. He supported the hospital's practices that you're now exposing. He chose money and reputation over people's lives. I know. Lucas's voice was hollow. But if I don't go in there, if I let him die without reconciliation, I'm no better than he is. He entered the room. Marcus Hart looked small in the hospital bed, a shadow of the imposing figure who'd convinced his son to choose career over love 5 years ago. Son, Marcus rasped. I'm sorry. For which part? Lucas asked. For pressuring me to leave Zara? For supporting the hospital's corrupt practices? For spending 5 years prioritizing money over patients? All of it. Marcus's eyes were wet. I was wrong. About everything. I thought I was protecting you. Protecting our family's reputation. But I was just scared. Scared of what? Of not mattering. Of our family's legacy meaning nothing. Your grandfather built something from nothing. I felt like I had to protect that. Preserve it. He coughed, the heart monitor beeping faster. But I destroyed what actually mattered. My relationship with you. Your happiness. People's lives. Lucas sat down beside the bed. Patterson wants to do the procedure. But Dad, he's not as good as me. His success rate on complex cases is 10 points lower. Marcus understood immediately. You want to do it yourself. I'm suspended. I can't treat patients. But you could. If I requested you specifically. Patients' right to choose their physician. It would look like I'm using your crisis to rehabilitate my reputation. Or it would look like a son trying to save his father's life. Marcus grabbed Lucas's hand weakly. Let me make this right. Let me help you show people who you really are. Dr. Patricia Okoye tried to block it. Threatened legal action. Claimed Lucas's suspension meant he couldn't practice medicine in their facility. But Marcus Hart was a prominent attorney with powerful friends. He exercised his rights as a patient with full mental capacity to choose his own medical care. And so Lucas Hart walked into an operating room for the first time in 2 weeks, with every major news outlet in Houston covering the story. Risky procedure, Dr. Patterson briefed him. Triple vessel disease. 2 complete blockages. Weakened heart muscle from the previous stroke. Surgery would be safer than cath, but he's refusing general anesthesia. He wants to stay conscious? Says he wants to talk to you during the procedure. Lucas scrubbed in, aware that Zara was watching from the observation gallery. Aware that his career, his reputation, possibly his entire future hung on the next 2 hours. Ready? Marcus asked as they positioned him on the table. He was conscious, sedated but aware. Ready. You. Ready to finally do something right. Lucas began the procedure, threading catheters through his father's arterial system with movements measured in millimeters. Every action narrated for the surgical team. Every decision justified for the dozens of observers watching. First blockage in the right coronary artery, Lucas said. Complete occlusion. Crossing with the wire. You were always gifted at this, Marcus said, his voice slightly slurred from sedation. Even in medical school. Your professors said you had the steadiest hands they'd ever seen. Dad, you need to stay quiet. Save your energy. No. Need to say this. Marcus coughed. I pushed you into cardiology. Not because it was what you wanted. Because it was prestigious. Profitable. Would look good for the family. We can talk about this later. What did you actually want to do? What did you dream about before I ruined it? Lucas was silent as he deployed the first stent, watching the artery open on the monitor. Public health, he said finally. Community medicine. Working in underserved neighborhoods. Making care accessible to people who couldn't afford places like Houston Medical. Like Zara's work. Yes. Like Zara's work. I took that from you. Convinced you it wasn't prestigious enough. Wasn't worthy of your gifts. Marcus's voice cracked. I'm sorry, son. I'm so sorry. Lucas moved to the second blockage, his vision slightly blurred by unexpected tears. After this is over, Marcus said, after you've saved my life with skills I pressured you to develop for all the wrong reasons, promise me you'll do what you actually want. Not what I want. Not what the hospital wants. What you want. I'm about to lose my medical license, Dad. I might not have a choice. Then fight for it. Fight for the career you actually deserve. The life you should have had. The procedure took 3 hours. 3 stents placed with perfect precision. No complications. No errors. When it was done, Marcus's heart rhythms had stabilized. His prognosis was good. And Lucas had performed the procedure under more scrutiny than any surgery in Houston Medical Center's history, with flawless execution. The morning Marcus Hart's surgery made national news. The The Texas Medical Board announced a formal investigation into Houston Medical Center's cardiac surgery practices. The Chronicle's expose had done its work. Patient advocacy groups were demanding action. State legislators were calling for hearings. And most damaging of all, insurance companies were threatening to pull contracts unless the hospital could prove its procedures were medically necessary. Money talked, and Houston Medical Center was finally listening. Zara sat in her apartment, watching the news coverage while her laptop displayed the flood of emails from other journalists wanting to interview her. Her phone hadn't stopped ringing in 3 days. "You did it," Keisha said, bringing her coffee. "You finally broke the story that's been haunting you for 5 years." "We did it," Zara corrected. "I couldn't have done it without Lucas's testimony, without the other whistleblowers, without you coordinating everything. Speaking of Lucas, he's downstairs. Says he needs to talk to you." Zara's heart rate picked up. She'd learned to pay attention to that now. "Send him up." Lucas looked exhausted when he entered. But there was something lighter about him, like he'd finally set down a weight he'd been carrying for years. "My father's being released today," he said without preamble. "Full recovery expected." "That's good. And the medical board ruled this morning. My license is suspended for 6 months pending completion of ethics training and supervised practice." He sat down heavily. "It's actually better than I expected. They could have stripped my license entirely. Will you go back to Houston Medical after?" "God, no. Even if they'd take me, which they won't." Lucas managed a tired smile. "I've had offers from 3 community health centers. Places that actually need cardiologists willing to work with underserved populations. The pay is terrible compared to what I was making. But it's what I should have been doing all along. Before ambition and fear corrupted me." He looked at her directly. "I'm also testifying before the state medical board next month. Full disclosure of everything I participated in. Every borderline case. Every time I chose revenue over proper medical judgment. That's brave. No, it's necessary. It's the minimum of what I should be doing." He paused. "Zara, I need to say something. And I need you to just listen, okay?" She nodded. 5 years ago, I destroyed the best thing in my life because I was afraid. Afraid of losing my career. Afraid of standing up to my father. Afraid of being the kind of doctor who fought for what was right instead of what was profitable. His voice was raw. "I told myself I was protecting you by leaving. But I was really just protecting myself from having to be brave. Lucas, please, let me finish." He took a breath. "When you had your heart attack, when I saw you dying on that gurney, I realized that I'd spent 5 years dying too. Slowly, piece by piece. Every compromise killed another part of who I used to be. You saved my life. Because it was easy. The procedure was clearly necessary. There was no moral ambiguity. No pressure to do the wrong thing." He leaned forward. "But Zara, you saved my life too. You and your investigation. You forced me to finally choose truth over career. Conscience over comfort. The person I should be over the person I'd become." Zara felt tears building. "Where are you going with this? I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm not asking for another chance at us. I haven't earned it." His voice broke. "I just need you to know that loving you was the realest thing in my life. And losing you, choosing to lose you, was the biggest mistake I've ever made. Everything that's happened since has been me trying to become someone worthy of having loved you in the first place." The silence stretched between them. "Do you remember what you said to me?" Zara asked finally. "In that church the night before our wedding? You said that loving me made you want to be a better man. That my courage inspired you to be brave. I remember. And then you left. And I thought," her voice cracked, "I thought that meant I wasn't enough. That my courage, my truth, my love wasn't worth fighting for." "Zara, no. Let me finish." She wiped her eyes. "But these past weeks, watching you testify, watching you risk everything, watching you choose truth even when it destroyed you." She looked at him directly. "I realized you didn't leave because I wasn't enough. You left because you didn't think you were enough. You didn't believe you could be the man you wanted to be for me." Lucas was crying openly now. "And maybe you couldn't. 5 years ago. Maybe we both needed to grow up. To learn what actually matters. To understand that love without courage is just words." Zara stood, moved closer. "But Lucas, you're not that scared 27-year-old anymore. And I'm not that naive 27-year-old who thought love conquered everything without a fight. What are you saying?" "I'm saying I don't know if we can rebuild what we had. Maybe too much damage has been done. Maybe trust, once broken like that, can't be fully repaired. She reached for his hand. But I'm willing to try. Slowly. Carefully. With our eyes open about who we actually are, not who we wish we were. Really? Really? You spent 5 years proving you could destroy yourself for your career. Now let's see if you can spend the next 5 years proving you can build something real. Something worth having. Lucas pulled her into a careful embrace, mindful of her still healing heart. I won't let you down again, he whispered. You might. You're human. We both are. But this time, when things get hard, when there's pressure to choose the easy path, she pulled back to look at him. This time we fight. Together. The community health clinic in Houston's 3rd Ward didn't look like much from the outside. Small building. Modest sign. Nothing like the gleaming towers of Houston Medical Center. But inside, Dr. Lucas Hart performed medicine the way it was meant to be performed. No pressure to overtreat. No revenue quotas. Just patients who needed care and a doctor willing to provide it regardless of their ability to pay. Dr. Hart. His nurse, Maria, poked her head into his office. Your next patient is here. Mr. Johnson, follow-up for his heart failure. Thanks, Maria. Send him in. Lucas's office was small but filled with personal touches now. Photos of his father, recovered and retired from law practice. His medical license, reinstated after 6 months of ethics training and supervised practice. And a framed newspaper article. The Houston Chronicle's Pulitzer Prize announcement for investigative journalism. The article hung next to a wedding announcement from 2 weeks ago. Mitchell Hart wedding, a second chance at forever. Small ceremony. Close friends and family only. No drama. No grand gestures. Just 2 people who'd learned the hard way that love required courage, honesty, and the willingness to choose each other even when the cost was high. Zara appeared in his doorway, slightly out of breath. She still had to be careful with physical exertion, but cardiac rehab had done wonders. Sorry I'm late. Interview with the medical board ran long. How'd it go? They're implementing new oversight protocols for all cardiac surgery programs in Texas. Mandatory second opinions for elective procedures. Public reporting of complication rates. She grinned. It's not everything, but it's a start. Lucas stood and pulled her close. You're changing the system. One story at a time. We're changing it. Your testimony was crucial. Mrs. Hart, he said, still getting used to the name. Have I told you today that you're incredible? Not in the last hour. Then I'm overdue. They kissed, tender, familiar, earned through hard work and painful honesty. Your father called, Zara said. Wants to know if we're coming to Sunday dinner. Do you want to? Yeah, I do. He's trying, Lucas. Really trying. And I think I'm finally ready to forgive him. She paused. Not forget, but forgive. You're a better person than I am. No, I'm just someone who almost died and decided life's too short to hold on to anger that poisons you. She touched his face gently. We both are. Through the window, the Houston skyline glittered in the distance. The city where they'd fallen in love, broken each other's hearts, almost lost everything, and finally, painfully, slowly, honestly, found their way back to each other. Not through grand gestures or easy forgiveness, but through the daily choice to be brave, to tell the truth, to fight for what mattered even when the cost was high. Love hadn't conquered everything, but courage, honesty, and the willingness to grow had given love a fighting chance. And sometimes that was enough.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.